All right.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me okay?
Tested successfully. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Good. We're here with
Anonymous
Honest
John.
John. or well, we'll see
Anonymous
if
John.
Anonymous John. Oh, did I say honest?
You did.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll cut
Which
that out.
is often true.
Yeah. All right, so we're here with Honest John. Fuck, I did it again. We're here with Anonymous John.
Yeah.
Anyway, here we are. Here we are, and not here at the same time. Back again. So since I talked to you last, I did manage to go over to B team and get my ass killed.
Mm.
That was good at your uh encouragement.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And it also is like, fuck, dude. I like, god damn.
Yeah.
Because I rolled with a couple different guys. But there's like, this is one of the things that I appreciate about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that, I rolled with this kid. I mean, he's probably like young 20s or whatever. Didn't look like much, he was like kind of muscly, but not, he was athletic looking. But then I rolled with the kid and he just fucking annihilated me.
Wow.
Just like his moves were extremely calculated. He knew exactly where to put his body, minimum effort on his part. I thought he was a little strengthy, but he was fucking strong. And he was precise with where he put his body, and he knew exactly where to go for maximum leverage. And he just like fucking wiped me out, every time.
Wow. Wow. With a smile on his face?
Yeah,
Or he
like
didn't
that.
give a shit?
Huh?
With a smile on his face? Was there any social whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, he was respectful, he just did his thing. He was one of those, I don't know, there's like different types of training partners, but like we were having some casual conversation, and then he said some stuff, asked me what belt I was. He said he was a blue belt, which I'm not sure I believe after rolling with him, because he was very good. And then he even commented, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, because I told him I have a blue belt, but it's from a while ago. I think I'm like, I don't know, low grade blue belt at best.
Well, he's younger than you, right?
Oh, he must have been. I didn't ask his age, or I don't remember.
He's training all the time.
Maybe, I don't know. He said he's on a road trip from Jersey.
Oh, okay.
So he's like
Okay.
traveling through, ended up at the B team.
Okay.
With his twin brother. But just the way he moved and the precision and like the leverage, not blue belt, probably. He just like, he was good at it. So it's nothing like a good old ass whooping to be like, oh, I'm not, not as good at fighting as I thought, and or, getting to feel like that other level of the game. Like, oh, these guys are good. And I also got to feel with, and this was good, not Craig Jones, but one of the other guys at the B team that's quite
Nicky
prominent.
Rod, or
let me see which one.
John Danaher's little brother.
No, this dude was a monster.
I think there's 3 main guys. Nicky Rod is one of them. Craig Jones is another, and I can't remember the other guy's name.
Might have been Nicky Rod.
And then they joke around because there's a guy named Danaher,
okay,
who is not related to John Danaher, but Craig Jones always says it's John Danaher's little brother and introduces him that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Nicky Rod. I just can't tell from this picture because I think his. Yeah, I think that's him. Like he's got these. And let me look him up. I want to be precise here.
Well, if you rolled with him, dude, then you rolled with one of the best guys in the world.
No, I did not get to roll, but he demoed a technique on me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Nicky Rod. Yeah, I'll tat it up. And like it was more the yeah, yeah. It was not so I didn't get to roll with him, which I mean he would have just yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would like but the dude was built like a fucking train. And like so he demoed and I got to feel basically what I felt was how connected his body was.
Mm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
just like I was like, "Oh my god." And it's sort of a weird for people that have never experienced messing with other people who are trained fighters and like trained,
Mm-hmm.
killers like at that level. I
Yeah.
don't think they understand how powerful they are.
Yeah.
Like they've got a weird kind of strength that it's like, okay, yeah, you've got muscles, but then they also know how to use them and they're incredibly like the power comes from I think this like they're connected where
Mm-hmm.
it's like his body was like an immovable it was like a rock but he also knew what to do with that rock and it's like oh my god
He could flow with the rock.
yeah like that and or it's like I'm just trying to give people an impression of the power where
Mm.
it's like it's like okay what you see is different than what you feel
It's one
like
thing to talk of bulls, and it's another thing to be in the bull ring or fight a bull.
like that yeah to feel a bull and so it's like I got a little taste it was fleeting but I feel like I can get a lot of information just in one brief interaction he demoed a
Mm.
technique. It was like my god that
Mm-hmm.
guy is a fucking truck like just bad
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then it's like he knows what to do with that it's like oh my god that's dangerous
Mm-hmm.
like like a fucking gorilla or so I don't know it's just crazy.
You ask yourself what you would do if you had to fight this guy, and it's
Like
like get a gun. It's
yeah, like
like
get a gun and maintain some distance and make sure the gun is big and you got ammo and don't miss because if
Mm.
that dude grabs you, it's over. It's over,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Yeah.
that's like I mean, from my own perspective, my own training, obviously, that's a good thing to do, feel that because then it raises the bar again.
Mm.
And I go back to like, ah, oh, man, I suck. And then it's like,
Mm.
oh, good, but that means learning, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
So there's that. That I wanted to report on that and share a little bit.
Yeah. You think you'll go back?
If you harp on me, yeah,
All right.
their drop in rate was pretty expensive, so it would be
Mm.
better for me to get a monthly rate. I don't know. Anyway, don't know what I will do.
Yeah.
I would probably be up for going back because I mean, yeah, being in a room with top level professionals,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit daunting, but that's where to be for the learning, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as the school is good, which this is a good one. It seems good. They're working hard, they're training. And then my approach is, you know, essentially, I guess I learned this in Hawaii when I went to BJ Penn School. It's like shut the fuck up and train. Essentially, like go in, not there to talk, not there
Mm.
to like try to talk myself up because it's like the respect is proven through sweat, really,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Yeah, it really
and
is.
and go there over and over and over again. Like they don't expect. I would say if people are listening and they're like, oh, I want to go train. I'm like, look, it's okay, go train wherever, but don't expect any sort of respect until you've been there a while and they see that you're working. That's how you
And at the same time, don't expect to be disrespected. That's not I know that's not
true.
what you mean. I
Yeah.
know that's not what you mean, but I don't want people to hear that in the wrong way. If you go to a school where you're being disrespected, there's no reason for that and there's no
No.
reason to stay.
Right.
So just because you're not being like
Like
fully accepted as one of the boys or the girls, does not mean that you should be disrespected by anyone.
Right. No,
Yeah.
yeah, they're super, super respectful. Like when I go in, usually, yeah, I think that is a mark of a good place. It's like people are like, okay, cool, you're here to train. Great, welcome, come on in.
Hmm.
I'm about to wipe the floor with you, but I'm going to respect you while we do that.
Yeah, I mean, they
Something like
shouldn't
that.
be like,
Like,
trying to hurt you
no.
or like, yeah, which doesn't mean that you won't get cross-faced and tapped multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, they might get a strain here or there.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I definitely went to a place. I've been to a place where it was kind of disrespectful like that. Like, who's the new guy? I don't
Hmm.
know about this, kind of bullshit. And I'm like, you know, I haven't
Yeah.
been back to that place.
Yeah. I think that that attitude is hopefully going away because more and more people are traveling and going to different gyms, and I think rapidly fading away are the days of kind of um, mm, secretive martial arts dojos, and it's going more into the world of like, well, it's just a gym.
Mm,
You go to the gym, there are guys who are really good, there are guys who are pretty good, there are guys who kind of know what they're doing, and there are people that are just starting out, and you just get on the mat and start working with people, and the authority is very evident of who can kick whose butt
yeah.
on any given
That's,
day. It's
yeah.
not like you've got to
It's not mysterious.
talk about it a lot. So it leads to a pretty chill environment, or it should. And if
Yeah,
people
I think
really
so.
want to get better, then they should encourage that kind of openness, because I think of it as like a scientific, study. You want peer reviewed research. So like if something is working really well at your school, some techniques, some systems or whatever, then of course you want to, if you're competitive about it, you want to use that to your advantage. But you also, people are going to learn your stuff, right? They're going to try it out, they're going to try to dismantle it, they're going to try to prove it wrong. You're going to get exposed to other people's stuff. It's like, it's how we all get better,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah. So thanks for the encouragement. And I just went in there and knocked out some training, ended up rolling with it. Yeah. I don't know if I'll leave this in for the edit, but like rolled with a guy who's like 38.
Hmm.
Actually tapped him once with a bicep slicer,
Okay.
which which came about as a chain of events where I was going for an arm bar, then he made a move somewhere else and I transitioned. So again, that like starting that fascination for me with or continuing the fascination that I have with there's chains. There has to be chains of events. I know I'm getting a little technical and nerdy where it's like you were saying, put somebody at a disadvantage or put them in a place, give them a dilemma that they have
A
to get
dilemma.
out of. And I think that is the key. And I feel like I have the understanding, but I don't have the body understanding to execute. I see little pieces here and there are starting to emerge where it's like this example where I put him in a position of disadvantage. He had an arm bar going. He collected like this, and I was able to slip my arm in here and my leg over top, trap his elbow, and then wrench my forearm up in there and like start to rip his elbow
Mm,
apart, which is a bicep
mm,
slicer essentially, and
mm,
tapped him. But it was the chain of events. It was, you're in a shitty situation. Now you got to get out, and now I know what to do. And you're busy
mm-hmm,
getting out of something. You're not busy attacking me.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
think that's a huge key for that art. Um, but lots of work to be done on my end if I continue for sure.
Do you think that it relates to your practice in Chengshin Tuixiao in any way? Or can you relate it? Would you relate it to your practice in Chengshin Tuixiao in any way?
Yeah, it's a funny question. Yeah, it's like I mean, it would have to in a sense because I've learned, but I can't think of any particular examples, but it's more like in boxing, yes. So that's part of the practice of Cheng Shin, like the Cheng Shin boxing, where it's like I move a certain way. I know that they're going to have to respond in this way to what I'm doing.
Mm.
So I can force a response and then boom, take advantage. Or
Mm-hmm.
move to bait them, and I know what's coming, and when it comes, boom, I nail them. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I know, same sort of thing. The chains of so that is like a chain of events, but in a different domain. I started to pick this up more clearly when I did some traditional judo, which again relates to Cheng Shin in the sense that like we do lots of judo techniques, like no gi judo essentially in Cheng Shin. But when I went to train in a traditional place, I realized, and this is against people who are resisting, I started to realize that I cannot get just like a straight up resisting opponent. I can't just throw in a big technique from zero.
No.
I have to get something going and
Mm.
then it can work. That's how to get stuff working.
Yeah.
You know, like a little foot sweep, a little nudge off balance, a little stumble, tit, 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 bam. Then I can get them, you know. So it's like I relate it that way. And then same sort of stuff like in Cheng Shin, where it's like, okay, they might reach, I do something, they do something, I take advantage, and, you know, so, but it's much faster. I think in
Mm.
the standing up Tui show environment that things happen a lot more quickly for the
Yeah.
most part, although sometimes things happen quickly in the grappling domain as well.
Yeah. Different
But,
speeds, different levels
but
of stickiness,
yeah, I believe the
different levels of
principles,
resistance.
yeah, yeah. And the principle is the same though. It's like this, you know, get them to do, you know, put them in a place where they have to get out, know what they're about to do to get out and
Know
use
what their
that.
options are.
Right, like that. It's like understanding their options.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And having
Um,
options of my own, because I many times I'd find myself like I'm in a position, I know I should be able to do something from here, but I don't know what the fuck to do.
mm,
So that's
mm-hmm.
like another piece. I need to be able to take it to them too. And if I don't have the specific technical knowledge,
And you can learn that in a very cognitive way that's actually beneficial. Um, so I heard it said recently, and I agree with this, and I was sort of thinking this for a long time, that to improve in grappling, but in lots of things, you need to have 3 levels of training partners. You need to have people that are a lot better than you. You need to have a source of knowledge. You can try figuring out everything on your own and innovating everything on your own, but then you're reinventing a lot of wheels. So
mm,
take a look at the people who are the hot shots and the experts and the pros and the masters and learn from them. And so that's one group of people. But if you try to do what they're teaching you on them, you'll never really succeed unless they let you,
yeah,
because they've been doing it forever and they're pros. So you also need people to do it, who you can be successful at. And so it's best to work with babies, with white belts, with newbies. You know, it's good to work with people that you could probably beat them pretty easily, even if you didn't know anything great, just because your level of experience or physicality or whatever gives you a big advantage. And then you get to practice your techniques and your strategies that you have yet to fully develop, but you at least cognitively understand them against somebody that you can do it with.
right.
So if you're a brand new white belt, then that might just be somebody who's a good deal smaller than you. But if you're a blue belt, it doesn't have to be somebody who's a good deal smaller than you. It can just be somebody who's a white belt,
Why?
like a
What do you
new,
mean smaller? Just curious. Why smaller?
physically smaller. Well, most of the time in not all the time, but most of the time in grappling, some level of strength is involved in
So you,
most techniques.
so you mean I'm thinking like if people who grapple for a lot tend to get beefier over time? I don't know if that's
Well, have
actually
you
true.
ever met a frail professional grappler?
Frail professional.
Yeah.
No, I mean none of them are frail. I remember this kid at Urban Jungle in Houston where he was like,
Professional.
I don't know. They all look like fucking gorillas to
There are
me.
no professional grapplers who are frail.
Yeah, they're like yeah.
Okay,
Gorilla
because
comes to mind. They're all just like, whoa. Like,
yeah, they're not. They don't look like bodybuilders.
no.
They don't look like that. But they have a certain kind of physique. I was rolling with a woman who was tiny, but she was a competitor. She was tiny. She was like 5'2" or something like that. And I I was so much bigger and stronger than her that, you know, I could handle her. But I I got stuck in her guard, and I put my hands on her abs to like posture up, and I was like, "Holy shit. This
Yeah.
girl is made of titanium."
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
tiny, but she's like liquid metal,
Yeah.
right? And I was really impressed. I was like, this young small person is stronger than pound for pound than a lot of guys,
Right. Yeah.
right? And that kind of physicality is necessary because if if you're competing, then if you're really skillful and you're competing against somebody really skillful, well, then the person who's more athletic is probably going to be the one who wins,
Yeah. If
right?
skill is even, then yeah, the athleticism or other factors will be determining.
So so of course people are going to factor in their athleticism as much as their skill. It'll be athleticism that is geared towards that kind of behavior. They
Yeah.
won't be the best swimmers in the world. They won't be the best football players in the world, not at all, but they'll be very, very athletic. So, um, why was I saying all that? I totally lost my train of thought. Do you have any idea?
Thinking.
Yeah, me too. Um,
What
you
were we
asked
talking?
me, well, we were,
Oh, you were talking about like different like it's useful in learning. So I think we were on a learning track.
yes,
So like
yes,
if you're
yes.
learning and training is good, you
Yeah, so
need
you
people.
need to have people where you have the athletic advantage, or you have such a strong skill advantage that their athletic advantage is a moot point.
Well, this
Bec-
so this is what you're saying then is that you need, because I don't necessarily agree that you need to have people that are worse than you. You just need to have people that will allow you to succeed at the technique so that you can see that it
Correct.
works.
So that would be the alternative. Yeah, there are like two options. If you have a good training partner,
They can
somebody who
dial it down for you and be like, okay, it would work here. And they can like let you get it so you get the feeling of how to succeed at that
right,
and then
but
increase the.
I do think that there is an advantage to both.
Sure.
I think it's good to work with people who just really understand how to drill and train specific things. I think that's tremendously advantage. Like I think that's something that Cheng Shin practitioners excel at. They're fantastic at that. Like people have been training Cheng Shin for a while, become really good training partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Like so you get really good at drilling specific skills and specific activities, specific techniques and strategies and so forth. It's fantastic. But it's also useful to go up against somebody who's just resisting you because again, resistance, it's real resistance. They have no intention of it working. They want
Yeah.
to make it not work. It's just that they're not that good. So you'll probably be able to get it at least some of the time. And
Yeah.
then that way you can, if you want to, yeah, if you want to do that. So then you do it at that level, and then you can start working with people who are tougher and tougher. And then you start working with people who are roughly at your level, and it's just open rolling, it's open sparring. They're not drilling, they're not training. And then can you start hitting the same moves and employing the same strategic systems against people who are at approximately your skill level and your level of athleticism. So I think you need that category too. I think it's really useful to have the three. You need to have people that are quite good. You need to have a source of knowledge, a source of understanding and insight that you don't have currently. You need
Yeah.
to have very cooperative partners who will allow you to drill that at a beginner level, and or probably both, just beginner people that you can do the techniques on or the strategies on. And then you need to have people who are closer to your level. You need to have people in the middle where you can
Yeah.
start to work it out.
Yeah.
So when you go to train over there at B Team, at first you're probably going to find some monsters. Of course, you're going to find a lot of monsters who can destroy you. They're pros. They're some of the best in the world. And then you'll also look for those other people
Yeah.
who you can do the other stuff with and develop right along. And then what I was saying about the for developing it is you can take a system, a specific system, like it's very technical, that you learn cognitively. Like you do action A and it's going to force a dilemma, and they can do either like X or Y. And if they do X, then you go to A point one. And if they
Yeah.
do Y, you go to A point
Like a
two. And
flow chart or something like
you
that.
create that flow chart and you get it cognitively, and you learn it and you dial it in, and then you start working that with cooperative people, training it, drilling it, and then you start working it with white belts, and then you start working it with higher and higher belts. Because I've definitely noticed that, like I've studied certain systems just online. I mean, a lot of my masters are just people that I study online. I buy their system or study their free shit, online,
Yeah.
and try their stuff out, and I work it out, and the first people that I work on it with successfully are the newbies,
Yeah.
and then I try to do it on people at about my level, and then I try to see how high can I go and still make this stuff work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also want to add to our consideration looking at learning in this sense, the one of the components that I also appreciate and obviously influenced by Ralston is also go tussle with the monsters.
Mm,
Because, like, for example, I was at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in Austin and I got to roll. I don't remember the guy's name, but they said, oh, you just got to roll with like one of the world champions, one of the current world champions. Don't remember his name. It's at 10th Planet Austin, Texas. And I got to feel what he felt like.
mm-hmm,
And I got
mm-hmm,
to feel different because there's
mm-hmm.
a huge difference in feeling between a white belt and a black belt. And I think even though I'm getting my ass kicked, the knowledge that I gain while in rolling with somebody who's that good is also, I think,
Yeah.
incredibly important. So it's like I think I value that a lot.
Yeah, and it's hard to articulate. I think for me, I think it's hard to articulate exactly what that is. It's more like an impression,
Yeah.
because by
The
definition, there's
sense of
so much
mastery.
a sense of
I know.
mastery. Yeah, and it's something that you don't understand, but it's kind of like on the edge of your
Like,
mm,
yeah.
your physical, your somatic
It's
comprehension, right?
yeah, I mean, in this case, since it is a fully somatic thing we're talking about, is it's the feeling sense of their nervous system, their mind and body understands what to do.
Hmm.
That's what real understanding feels like on the
Mm.
receiving end. How can
Yeah,
I mimic that? How, like, what
yeah,
are they doing? Wow, they're doing precise things and like trying to get a sense. And yeah, very much like I don't see that world, but I get a taste of it.
hmm,
And I feel like that's incredibly important. Like, it's like who somebody who wants to do painting, wouldn't you want to paint with the masters? Like, go just sit with them, watch them,
yeah,
have them move your hand around or something like that. If it was painting, like in a
yeah.
master moves your hand, like, whoa, that would be a different. It's like, oh, there's this other world. So
Mm.
I think I also put a lot of stock in that, and I wanted to add that to this conversation about learning because I think that's like I'd rather roll with black belts, even though
Yeah.
I'm getting killed, and I feel sorry for them having to roll with somebody who doesn't give them as much of a challenge, perhaps.
Well, So
But
there,
that's my reaction and irrelevant.
yeah. So I think there's something there to that that's super important. Like everything you said about rolling with mastery and experiencing mastery, I agree with a
Or
hundred
like I get to
percent.
play with Peter, or I have got to play a lot with Peter, and I'm like, yes, this is fucking cool. Like, wow, look at how he moves and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And to feel it, it's like, oh,
So, but there's important, I think there are important things to remember if you're working with somebody who's much better than you. And I think you know this. Um, if you're working with somebody who's a lot worse than you, right? You don't necessarily go with them 100%. In fact, you rarely, if ever, go with them 100%,
uh,
right?
you mean 100 full power? You
So
mean?
say, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're boxing with somebody and you can just destroy them.
Yeah.
If it's a training environment, you're not going to actually destroy them.
Mm-mm.
In fact, you might take the opportunity to work with them on a specific skill and not even tell them about it.
Sure.
In fact, I've seen you do that a lot because you've done that with me,
Yeah.
right? You don't tell them what it is. You don't want them to know what it is because if you tell them what it is, it will change their natural response and reaction to what it is
Totally.
that you're working on.
Yeah.
When you're working with people who are much better than you, they're doing the same thing.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do. I wouldn't. Yeah. I also wouldn't mind. Like, yeah.
So you've got to remember that your experience of that mastery will be through a certain
Oh,
lens.
I see why you're saying this.
They have something, they
They
are
might be
getting
doing
something out
something.
of working with you. They're
Yeah.
working on some obscure, weird thing that is many years down the road from what you can presently get. And there's no point in them communicating it to you at this point in time
No.
because you're not there.
And
But
it would just kind of like I love, which brings me to another point. That's why this is one reason I love working with beginners when I get a chance in the art that I practice. Well, it's like, oh, they're fresh. They're not inundated. They're like
mm-hmm,
raw data, or they're so unpredictable. And like,
yeah,
how do I deal with this shit?
yeah,
And that is also presents its own set of challenges and is also very valuable. And
right.
yeah, to tell a beginner that is like it ruins it. It's like, oh, I
Right.
have a gem here. I can't tell them because I would just fuck it up. And I want the raw data. I want the yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
learning everywhere up the wazoo.
I also I heard I don't remember who it was, some coach or somebody saying that he was always hearing from, newbies, white, blue, purple, black belts saying things like, "Man, I I tapped out Gordon Ryan. I tapped out Nicky Rod. I tapped out so and so."
Yeah, because they're probably fucking trying to learn something.
Because they're working on they're putting themselves in some sort of horribly disadvantageous position
Yeah.
because they want to work on the minutia of some very deep problem.
Or like, yeah,
And
here's where I'm extremely weak. I need to solve
yeah,
that.
and because it's possible that they might get into that situation with the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
But your chances of putting them into that situation, if they don't want you to, are absolutely zero.
Yeah.
But they are allowing you to do so. And it is a privilege,
So
sir. It is a
yeah, yeah.
privilege.
So you're saying that some coach was hearing this from some lower level
Yeah, yeah,
guys,
yeah.
like
Coach
I'm
is,
tapping out these.
I just tapped out so and so. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, he
because
let you, bro.
he lets you put his nuts in a vice, dude. I mean, he's trying to see if he can get out of like the
The
10th
hardest
circle
of
of
the
hell.
hardest of the hard.
and you're just bitch enough that he thinks he might have a chance. So I think it's important to remember when we are rolling with super, super good people, or even just people who are significantly better than us, they are looking at it in a different way and they're up
Sure.
to something too. And so, yeah, you're experiencing that mastery and that's very cool. And it is definitely informative for the body, but
Hmm.
it would be presumptuous to say that we really know what's going on. We're just sort of in the presence of mastery, and we're getting that impression, and that's
Yeah.
valuable, I think, for the nervous system on a
Yeah,
level
to
that's
soak
not
in it.
really
It's like,
soak in it. It's not really cognitive. It's not really linguistic. You
no.
don't really understand, but you're getting a feel for something, and it's like, yes,
Yeah.
that feeling. I need to pay attention to that feeling, because that feeling, I want to recreate that feeling in my own experience as I continue. Now I'm
Yeah.
going to work with those people, do that, and use all these other tools, these cognitive maps, flowcharts, working with the white belts, working with guys that I'm competitive with that are my level, and everything in between to start creating that feeling of mastery.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily understand what is producing that feeling of mastery. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I mean that's part of the point with stuff like that for me is like I don't know what it is. I'm like I get us. There's something there,
Yeah.
something like, and it tells me like maybe I'm sure more than just what I'm about to say, but like there's a missing link. What I harp on the missing link, like what's missing from my equation? Oh, there's
Mm.
a whole bunch of that. What is that? Oh, I don't know, but I think it's in that direction, like over
Yeah.
there. What's over
Yeah.
there? I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure that out.
So like
What's the
imagine doing
question?
Tuishao against a wrestler. Like try
Yeah.
doing Shengshin Tuishao against a good wrestler. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to basically
Well,
um,
Tuish,
train Tuishao, Shengshin Tuishao,
meaning uprooting and throwing.
uprooting, throwing, flipping, penning.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
okay.
Yeah.
So uprooting, throwing, flipping, penning. So what I want to do is start with teaching and I've already started doing it and teaching myself. Number one, just stand up. Like you can't get pinned. It's super hard to get pinned and stay down. I want to make it very difficult to pin people. And then we start working on takedowns, throws, and takedowns, starting with the easiest, simplest, highest percentage takedowns. Whereas in Shengshin Tuishao, we often emphasize techniques because they're technically difficult.
Yeah.
Because the goal is to develop skill, sensitivity, timing, the ability to feel movement and change and to stay in accordance with things on a continuous basis. And so
Yeah.
there's not an emphasis on easy high percentage moves. There's an emphasis on difficult low percentage moves,
Hmm.
right? So there were some exceptions.
Yeah. There's no. There's no, to my knowledge, there's no system in Shengshin that's geared toward what do you do with a resist. Like, what do you do if you're actually fighting somebody that is
Mhm.
resisting? There's no like, it's not worked out like that. It's more of, as far as, well, I guess as far as I can tell, it's like a system that's worked out and designed around principles, and it's designed to teach principles, but it's not designed to teach about like when you talk in terms of percentage. Like I know guys in Brazilian jiu-jitsu that they'll have that like, oh, this is a high percentage technique, like if I can get here, there's a high likelihood that I will finish that job,
Exactly.
and that
And they're
has, to
usually
my
the
knowledge,
simplest.
yeah,
They're
it has
usually the
not been
simplest
mapped
techniques.
out. Like for example, if somebody reaches to put a hand on me, if they stick a hand in my direction, I am very confident that I have like a near 100% capacity to do a pull through, or what they
Yeah.
call in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu an arm drag. This is a high percentage
Yep.
technique that I know. You stick a
Yep.
hand out toward me, I can get that right away.
Yes.
And that has not been mapped out.
Right. So that's what I want to do.
Cool.
That's what I'm trying to do. I want to bridge the gap between wrestling,
Hmm.
okay, like a grappling in general. So
Yeah.
grappling in general, I would just put like if it's
And it's,
not striking and it's combat, I don't care if it's judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, or some kind of different wrestling. It's all grappling. You just have different rules that incentivize different behavior.
yeah, or like grappling on the feet, because when it comes to tussling and trying to throw, there's a definitely, it's like grappling but standing up.
Yeah.
because there's no striking. It's grab, pull,
Yeah.
off balance, twist, get them down,
Right.
whatever. And it's like
Right.
it's like a grappling type fight on.
And I think that that's actually more applicable in a broader, like there are more contexts where that's actually appropriate than not. You think of like a street fight on concrete. Do you really want to be rolling around on the ground doing jujitsu? Not that much. If you are, you want to be on top. And if it's some crazy situation with multiple opponents or something, you don't want to be down on the ground. It's a
Mm-mm.
very bad place to be.
Oh, multiple opponents? Fuck no. Yeah. Nope.
No,
Nope.
you're gonna get
Stand up, run
You're
away.
gonna
I'm
get
out.
kneed.
No, no.
Yeah, well, somebody's gonna put their knee in your head. If you can
Or
be on
more.
top, dominating. Yeah, whatever. So it's. I think for most contexts, it's better to stand up and to stay standing, to stay above your opponent. Basically, it's just a general dynamic that normally it's superior to be in a superior position. And wrestlers are very good at that. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And I think more and more in the no-gi jiu-jitsu world, wrestling is really starting to fuse or be integrated into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, such that is it really Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Is it really wrestling? It's no-gi grappling.
Yeah, and I don't and I immediately want to take that a step further in the sense of like getting ontological with what's actually going on, because the what comes up immediately is like the power of language to influence our perception of reality, where it's like if you have two bodies in space doing a thing, standing up on feet, then as soon as we call it wrestling, now I'm not saying I'm trying to say something like, in order to really get what's going on, it's useful, I think, to strip away the language and strip it down, as Peter would say, to like the bare bones. Like, what are we actually working with? Because whether you call it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling is really irrelevant. It's like, what can you do with a body? All right, we've got two bodies standing on a planet. There's gravity. There's objects in space. One of them can reach a limb out and grab another. What are the implications really? They're like, oh, that's a wrestling move. It's like, no, actually, it's not a wrestling move.
It's not a wrestling move.
That's just a word for something.
Yeah.
That isn't the word that we use and I'm just thinking about that in terms of learning or.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly useful, and it's so easy for people to miss that.
And I've got a gripe. My gripe is that like people are like, oh my God, did you learn the newest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, blah, blah, blah? Is that superior to the wrestling, blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling. It's like,
right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Kind of thing is like, and then because I guess I'm railing against, that's my, what do you call it? My stuff against being limited.
Yeah, it is a limitation. Well, I think if you think about it this way, if you think like I have verbiage for it, and I think verbiage can be really useful. So like when you think of
otherwise
climbing,
you don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing.
Yeah, you can't communicate. But if you think about climbing, right? Just think about climbing. If I say climbing to you, it's a very general.
Sure. I could climb a tree. I could climb a ladder. I could climb.
You could climb
on
whatever.
Top of a countertop or something.
Yeah, but it's all climbing.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just climbing, and there's a verb there.
Yeah.
It's not an art. It's not connected to a sport. It's not connected to a culture. It's a verb that suggests a certain kind of activity that's different from, say, running
or sitting
or whatever. Yeah, sitting, swimming. Okay. Yeah. And fighting is a verb.
Yeah.
It's fighting.
Yeah.
And to me, the way I define it, I say grappling is fighting, but it excludes pugilism.
Impact.
It excludes impact for damage.
Sure.
Right? We're just excluding impact for damage. We're taking that out. And we can take other things out, like stuff that's typically excluded from consensual fighting, because there's non-consensual fighting.
Right. See, and then that's another domain. Like, yeah.
Yeah, non-consensual fighting means there's no agreement.
Yeah.
No agreement. We later on, usually people get together and they decide what to call it, and it's like crime or self-defense or something. They'll put a label on it afterwards, assault, right? But in the moment, it's just activity and there's no agreement around it.
Yeah.
That's non-consensual fighting.
Yeah.
And then there's consensual fighting. There's agreement ahead of time, and that is honored or not honored.
Yeah.
And so the agreement of consensual fighting matters. What are the agreements? Because they will dictate and incentivize certain kinds of behavior. So in the grappling, if we agree upon grappling, we are both agreeing that there is no pugilism. There's no impact. There's no damaging impact.
Yeah. Why are you telling me this, or what's the?
Because I think that if you get to what you're talking about with, is this a wrestling technique or is this a jiu-jitsu technique? And you're saying like, well, this is a movement. Like, this is something the body can do. This is something the body is capable of in space and time in relationship to another. Whether you call that wrestling or jiu-jitsu or judo is really irrelevant. I want to know what this thing is, and you can put whatever label on it you want.
Yeah.
And I think that it's useful to kind of get really generic about it like that. Like, instead of making it a cultural thing, we don't do that with so many things. We don't say, well, this is, German geometry and this is, Italian geometry.
But I bet, I bet, quick aside, getting a little nerdy, I bet in the world of mathematics, we could also ask somebody about that. There's like different styles of mathematics, and I've even heard it referenced as like, oh, that just looks sloppy.
Yeah, different ways of expressing things.
Because of the, well, math is also a language, so there's that aspect, but it's like, because they've done it so much, the people that really do it a lot, they're like, oh, that's their style of math. And they start to make those distinctions, and then they can speak about them. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I don't know if this is even applicable. I just thought I'd share.
Well, I think it's really important because you see in a lot of different techniques that are developed inside combat sports or martial arts. You hear techniques like the Americana or the Kimura, or this or that, and they are named after someone or some particular moment in time where that technique was made famous.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't belong to an art necessarily. Sometimes it gets connected to an art, but then they take that technique and they move it into another art, but the technique migrated, right? You see what I mean? Because that particular and it wasn't even that person developed it. It's just that person made it known or famous. And so it gained a name in popular.
It's just another thing that somebody can do. Like I just learned about one from Marcelo Garcia where he does a guillotine, but then he's got his elbow up and is still able to finish it. And I don't know, like they said, oh, it might be called a Marcelo-tine. It's Marcelo Garcia.
A Marcelo-tine.
Same principle. Get the throat, squeeze it off, like a guillotine, but modified.
Yeah, and he probably is not the first person to have done it.
Sure.
Maybe
the first person to make it famous or something like that.
Somebody, because it's Marcelo or Garcia, right?
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is if you look at grappling by that definition, then Cheng Shin Tuishao is grappling.
Oh, this is where you're going.
It's one of the places. Yeah, okay. Cheng Shin Tuishao is.
Where the fuck are we going?
Cheng Shin Tuishao is grappling. It is a grappling art. And then we make the agreement, depending on if it's game A or B or C.
So we're including throwing within grappling.
Yeah, I just include throwing within grappling because it has to do with fighting without striking.
Right.
Right. Now, right? Because you're still manipulating them with your body.
Yeah.
to put them on the ground. You do the same thing when you're on your knees. You still
And I
do
guess we can
sweeps and
divide it
throws.
up different ways too, just
Of
depending on
course.
what distinctions or what domains we want to create. And that's an
Yeah.
option. It still doesn't change the movement itself or what the
Mm-mm.
body needs to accomplish, but it will change how we think about it.
It will. It will. And it'll
And it's
incentivize
probably,
things.
yeah, or like as soon as you say that, I think about the difference between guys that are training for like IBJJF rules versus submission only grappling. And because
Hmm.
of the framework, it moves in a one direction or another.
Yeah.
And so then I guess my question would be for those and myself and you and I is like, well, what's the best way to think about it or the most powerful, the most effective way?
What do you want to be effective at?
Well, if we're in the fighting domain,
What do
and
you want
then,
to be effective at?
oh, me personally?
Yeah.
I mean, currently lots of different things, but just generally speaking, life, business,
Let's just
when I
talk about
train.
fighting. Let's just talk about fighting. Keep it in the world of fighting.
What do I want? Why ask the question?
Because I think to answer your question about which is the best, you have to answer the question of what you want to be effective at. Because I don't think there is a best without answering that question.
Right. You see, and then we get into like how, which is a way of thinking about it that I would, you see, our way of considering this problem
Mm-hmm.
is what I would think is a very effective way, ergo, the best way to think about it.
What is the way that we're thinking
I'm
about
getting
it?
a little meta about it.
We're
Which
getting
is,
meta. What is
yeah,
the way we're thinking about it?
I guess meta. I heard that word. I don't know if I'm fucking. It's like we're considering what's really there,
Mm-hmm.
which ergo, Shang Shin, like consciousness work.
Yeah. What
Like,
is this
what is it?
before? Mm-hmm.
You see, and then obviously, like that, you went exactly. I mean, not saying that I think the best way, but you went exactly where I would have to go if I was trying to facilitate somebody else. You're like, well, what are we talking about here? Good,
Mm-hmm.
let's stick to fighting. Now, what do you want to be effective at? Because in order to be effective, we have to establish what effectiveness is, like what actually denotes effectiveness. Like, oh, you want to be effective at grappling. Okay, good. Then that changes the whole game. That'll change all of the thoughts that I have. I'm not thinking about striking, I'm thinking about grappling.
Yeah.
And I guess where I wanted to go with that was just pushing further in terms of considering, like, if we're grappling
Mm-hmm.
hypothetically, and we've established that there are ways that we can, utilizing language or making distinctions, there are ways that our thinking will get channeled based on what we say to ourselves, like, oh, that's a Kimura, or oh, that we're training IBJJF rules. And because we say this or make that distinction, now our training is funneled. Is
Mm.
that the best way? And it's that way because of
I don't think so. I
because
think
I
that's
don't
not
think
the
so.
best way.
But hang on, I'm almost there. It's like I'm trying to focus in on realizing that the way we hold our mind is the reality we're going to start to look at. And
Mhm.
if that's the case, there are ways that we can hold our mind that are different and will yield different results. And if that's the case, what's the best way to approach or
Mm.
hold that domain so that we have maximum progress, maximum power, maximum skill, minimum time?
Mm.
And what would be the way of thinking that would allow that? That's my trying to
Yeah.
fire that into the mix and be like, wait a minute.
Well, I think being objective and clear about your names is actually important because names can be misleading. I've
And be
trained
clear
at a
about the distinctions that the names are pointing at and realizing that that's not the thing that's happening per se, but it's a way of describing it. And especially in martial arts, it's not like the feeling of doing the move has very little to do with the sound or the thought of the word that comes to mind that is that move.
Well, and even more like concretely, they can be actually misdirectional. So like
Sure.
a heel hook is not about breaking someone's heel. A lot of heel hooks really target the knee, and people
Mhm.
are trying to target the foot or the ankle
Right,
because
without
of the name.
knowing.
Yeah, what is it really for? So submissions are easy. When you're thinking about submissions, I try to think of things anatomically. Like anatomically, the way a doctor or a massage therapist would describe the body, what are you trying to break, destroy specifically, and how?
Right.
Okay. And then we just think about, okay, now in which directions, because we're talking about leverage here, and
Mhm.
we're talking about like breaking joints, and then how can I line my body up to where I have maximal force against that joint? And then I'm just learning new ways to do that. And then the names become just a convenience for communication.
Yeah, and I mean that's what that's for, and it's ultimately the yeah, the student needs to be able to translate the words into the feeling and action and the precise feelings in this domain anyway. I know I'm sure it's different in other stuff like writing, but or mathematics, but still they'll get a feeling for good writing, I imagine, over time. But in this
Mm.
case, especially because it's working with bodies, being able to take the sound and turn it into that precision feeling that needs to happen in order for that particular technique to occur
Well,
well.
and I think it can for me I think it can be simpler than that. I've
What can
uh,
be? You said what's the it?
like understanding what's actually going on with the body can be very, very objective. It can be very, very objective in a similar way to like working on a car or a sink, right?
Sure.
Like you
You mean
need
in
this
grappling? In
in
grappling,
grappling.
yeah,
Yes, in
yeah,
grappling.
yeah. It's
And
very
even
like leverage
I
position.
think I think even in less so because you really have to work more, and you do in grappling too. You really have to work with movement with things like boxing.
Yeah.
Um, but even there, it's still you can be very objective about it. But I think like for grappling, like I've been working a lot on strangles for a while, and I can apply really very effortless strangles against a lot of people in a wide variety of ways, and I can make up new strangles that nobody showed me before.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know I could get a lot better. But the reason I can do that is because I'm not thinking about my a particular technique at all.
Are you
I'm
thinking
thinking
about
about
what
the
needs
arteries.
to happen over there?
I'm only thinking about these and closing those.
Yeah.
And all I'm thinking about is just how can I jam shit up in there and close that off?
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's my gi, my arm, their foot.
Your
It
fist or something
it
or whatever.
doesn't matter. It's about closing those off.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I have seen black belts get lost in the steps, the setup of movements. You know, you go from this position to this position to this position, and then you get the submission. But they don't know what they're actually breaking.
Right.
And all those movements are irrelevant.
Right. It's yeah, it's only what happens in the other person's body. That is the technique.
That's the technique as
Like
far
in
as
this
finishes
case.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those other movements are good setups and cool, but if you don't know actually how to finish it, what
Like
is the
what yeah.
finish
What are you
mechanically
actually
speaking?
doing? Yeah. What's
Yeah.
going on there? Again,
What's
Back
Yeah.
to going, what's actually happening?
What is actually happening? And like, so for like escapes, you don't talk about like there's the elbow knee escape, and there's like going to
But
turtle, and
what
there
are
are
you
different kinds of
doing?
escapes. What are you doing? Well, actually, what I'm doing is I'm pushing my hips up into the air, and I'm rotating onto my left shoulder and putting my knee on the ground. Or like, you see what I'm saying? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
physical movement that you can describe anatomically with nouns and verbs, like
Mm-hmm.
objects, hip, knee, thigh, foot, heel.
So then it's
And
like, get my hips up, put my knee on the ground. If I can do that, I'm out.
right, right.
And now you see, and this seems to be a more precise way of speaking and also a more clear and more powerful, more actionable,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
more like, here's what you need to do.
yeah.
So then like you utilizing, I do remember trying to utilize your don't let them get your armpit space. And
Mm-hmm.
then after my role at B team, I'm like, wait a minute. Yep, they were there up in my shit. I wonder why I got smoked. Oh yeah, did that thing happen? Like, yeah, it did actually. And I was actually thinking about your what you said about having bruises on your hips from your elbows being so tight in there.
Mm,
I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't do that. And I'm a long guy, so I understand because I've rolled with guys that are longer like me. It's like there's lots of space to get in because
mm-hmm,
we're
mm-hmm,
skinny assholes. Like shit
mm,
like that. Anyway, but so yeah, I think so then circling it back to what I was saying before, I think that is a powerful way of thinking.
mm-hmm.
And I hear evidence of it with Peter. I hear evidence of it with who's that guy with the 50-50?
Ryan Hall.
Ryan Hall speaks like this. He's like, and it's like, it's refreshing to hear that opening up. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a better way of considering it because or like your guys, the Globetrotters, the BJJ Globetrotters,
Mm-hmm.
where they like, who says you need to XYZ? I
Yeah.
just like, who says you need to tap to that or whatever, and just like lay there and see what happens,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
or like,
Britt Mickelson,
yeah.
defensive BJJ. Yeah.
And it destroys the conventional thinking and gets down to the nitty gritty, I think, which I think, again, powerful way to go about
And
learning, I think.
I really want to. It's going to take time, I think, but I want to make the connection between a lot of the techniques and the particular principles involved that we train in Cheng Shen. Because I think Cheng Shen is, well, you've seen it, you've done it, it's beautiful, it's extremely effective in a certain context,
Yeah.
but like all the principles are expressed in a verb: following, leading,
Yeah.
joining, right?
Yeah.
They're all complementing. They all suggest a constant relationship that you adhere to like continuously. And the moment you get off of that, you go back to it. The moment
Yeah.
you get off it, you go back to it,
Okay.
right? And then to work on it, you start with something very objective. Follow his feet, just
Yeah.
his feet. And then you get to where you're like follow, follow, follow. It's like a meditation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and then you build on that into follow his hands and follow his center, et cetera, until you
Follow his
and then
mind, follow his
follow his
strategy,
mind. Yeah,
intention.
you make distinctions. So you take that verb and you connect it to a noun. Follow what? Follow means nothing if there's not a what. You have to follow something, right?
Yeah.
And so you do same thing with leading or joining, right? They all work that way. And that
Yeah.
to me is very, I know it's a relationship and it's movement, but it's very objective. It's very tangible in the real world. It's not necessarily physical contact in that particular moment, but it's
Okay.
nothing but physicality and relationship. And everything that we've talked about in the grappling is physicality and relationship. The
Yeah.
key difference between the two is the use of muscular force and contraction and expansion that's normal and natural for human beings, and that we just omit from our training practice in
So
Changshin.
where are we going with this one? What are you trying to say?
Just that I want to
I've got
uh
you. You want to bridge the gap, but I'm still between
yeah,
what and what? Or
so I just want to it's something to explore. Maybe I don't have it as clear as I want, but I would like to take the principles and start applying them directly into specific areas of grappling.
oh, now I get what you're saying. Okay.
So, for example, if
Can I
I'm in,
join a blah blah
yeah,
pass or
I'm
something?
in turtle and I would like to stand up. Somebody is trying to get their hooks in and they're trying to fish for one-on-ones and get my hands and stuff to break down my turtle. Can I use following and leading to hand fight to get into an advantageous position? When they're trying to squash me, they can kind of squash on my lower back or they can kind of squash on my upper back. Can I yield in such a way that I can stand up easily?
Mm,
Like just slip out underneath. I was working on that
awesome.
recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to take the principles and I can't just apply it to the whole thing. It's way too much for me to
I
handle.
mean, I would say,
Maybe I could.
quick
Maybe you
aside, I
could.
would say like blah blah. Just every so often try that. I would
Try it.
definitely recommend that. Like, hey,
Okay.
but like that's for training. Like, yeah, hyper focus and then try wholesale because you don't know and you
Yeah,
have to
that's
get
true.
it to wholesale. So I think a
You have to get it
breathing
to
between.
wholesale eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
I'm
quick
working on these
aside.
minute baby steps and
Got it.
these
Copy.
specific
Yeah.
areas.
Understood.
And that's why I'm saying I'm trying to bridge the gap. And I'm not just doing it in like, oh, it's just wishful thinking. It's like, no, it's technical. You see what I'm saying? Like I want to do it in this specific area. I'm going to do it in this specific position. Like, how does it work in guard? How
Yeah.
does it work under mount? You see what I'm saying?
Talk to me after. I should tell you who to go talk to. Yeah, that sounds fucking cool, man. I wish you luck, and I'm excited to see what you create.
Mm,
And yeah, I should
mm.
get my ass in your proximity so we could work on some of this stuff.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah. Peter was talking about talking me up at this most European workshop because I think he's done.
I saw him in a church, a big cathedral.
Yeah.
It was
And
cool.
I think he said this is probably his last time doing that, so he's pushing to have me take over.
Mm.
So that'll be good. Maybe I can start making plans now or soon when he gets back for a summer trip. In that case, I should
Yeah,
come out that way.
yeah. I think it'll be we could if we structure it. I mean, we can also just have a great time. But if we structure it, we could actually try to make it really productive and really specific, like in the old
Yeah, because
days.
I would like to do some stuff like that where I'm working with somebody that understands
Mm-hmm.
and we can like, hey, let's try this and then and like
Mm,
learn some stuff there. Yeah,
mm.
because I do miss that from time to time.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Like I remember, yeah, I remember going over to that one gym, and the guy there was stoked because of working with people that have trained their bodies. He's like, "Oh, it's so refreshing. I can just tell you what to do, and you can fucking do it quick." I'm
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, you got more? Like, feed
yeah,
me." Kind
yeah,
of good.
yeah. After the contemplation intensive, you mean?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
probably,
Yeah,
and or I mean, just when we were in that part of the world at that particular time.
yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, yeah. Um,
So
very
anyway,
cool, man.
awesome. Looking forward to seeing what you create. I think we're good to close it here. We probably should. It's
It's been a
been a
while.
bunch of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess thank
Catch
you.
you later.
Cheers. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode or listening.
Go do
Brendan Lee.
workshops.
Huh?
Go do workshops.
Yeah, come do some motherfucking workshops. Hire me for something. I've got a website. Navigate my website. That's what I've been telling people on YouTube. I'm like, look, I've got a website. Navigate, find out what to do. Oh, but then it doesn't work that way. I have to tell people. I have a forum where you can ask me questions. It helps me create content. I also have courses. I have workshops. We do workshops here. I can work with you online. I have a monthly online course. That doesn't like it doesn't seem to work unless I say it.
People need direction, apparently.
They do need direction.
Mm.
You're directed. Cool, man. All right, Anonymous John, aka Ghost in the Machine. Do you want that to be your name?
Anonymous John, aka Ghost in the Machine,
Ghost
and I want
in
you
the
to say the
Machine?
whole thing every time.
We're working with Brendan Lee and Anonymous John, aka Ghost in the Machine. He's here and not here at the same time. There's only one thing that can do that, and it's absolute. I don't know what the fuck.
That's perfect. Okay.
Ghost in the Machine, GIM. Anyway, I'm making up shit. Yeah, cool, man. Nice talking with you. Till next
Peace.
time. See ya. I'll turn off the recording and then debrief with you and whatnot.